Imagine a life without change, without movement, where everything stayed the same. Wouldn't that be horrendous? Who wants to live in that world? Change has brought us electricity, votes for women, the right to choose who we love. So why do we say people don't like it? It can't be that simple. It seems so obviously wrong. If people don't like change, why are there so many versions of the iPhone? I've spent my working life thinking about this. So I'm going to introduce you to someone, and I'm going to talk about a change that I really didn't like. This is younger me, and this is my husband, Graham. Now, I don't know if you can tell by that photo, but he's a bit of a show-off. 21 years ago, I was working in financial services, and change was my job. I was making change happen. Change was my friend. I was sitting in our staff restaurant on November the 27th, 2001, having lunch with my boss. I looked up and I saw Kev, Graham's friend from work, suddenly in my work. He was wearing a suit instead of his bike gear, and he had a female officer with him. I can still feel the dread as he walked towards me in what felt like slow motion. They escorted me from the building and they put me in the back of a police car. It was enormous. And they do that head thing, you know, like you see on the telly where they make you go down. I'd never been in the back of a police car before. And it was really weird because the car's going really fast, but it feels like the journey takes forever. It drove me to the hospital and they took me into the emergency room. And the first thing I saw was a nurse cutting off my husband's precious, custom-made leather trousers. I remember thinking, oh God, did he put underwear on this morning? He's a proud Scotsman, and what they say is true. The newspapers reported that he had sustained life-changing injuries, but they didn't talk about what happened to my life. I went from taking meetings to taking my husband to the toilet. We both lost our careers. To be honest, I lost a bit of my hair, quite a lot actually. But I didn't lose my temper. Well, maybe once or twice, But by 2006, we were ready for another change, and I went back to school to find out more about how people experience change in their lives. So I went from making change happen to researching change. And I'm going to talk today about what I've learned. Change is the way we talk about evolution, adaptation, innovation. It's how we describe movement. So really, it's an idea of something that is the same, but different. How many things could you think of that you would change today, right now, if you could? At least one, right? So why do we say that people don't like change? What is it they don't like? I'm going to give you 5 reasons that people don't like change. And then I'm going to talk about one thing that might help, because I think we need to get along better with change. Reason 1. Change is not the same as progress. Our view of change depends on our perceptions of choice and control. Most people don't like having things imposed upon them, and they don't like feeling like they're out of control of things that they care about. Progress is movement in the desired direction. But who gets to decide what direction we go in? Is it my idea? Or is it your idea? If we really want to learn, it has to be our idea. UK Special Forces have nailed this. They revisit their operations together, piece by piece. Not to talk about who did what, but to work out what to change, to learn how they can get better. Reason 2. Change can be overwhelming. It's everywhere. It's like the weather. And change does not respect our boundaries. Change at work can influence our most intimate areas of our life, like our relationships and our everyday routines. We all experience change differently. The same change may not feel the same for me as it does for you. We all have a different change burden. Some people can change their hair, go on a diet, get a new job, move house, buy a new car, all in the same week. But we can't all fit that into the same week, and most of us don't want to. We can all feel change overload sometimes. It depends on the burden we're carrying. If it feels like too much right now, it probably is. Reason 3. Change can mean loss, and loss can be scary. We don't always want to talk about what we're afraid of losing, and loss can creep up on you and take you by surprise. At work, loss is really scary because it can affect our finances, our professional pride, our sense of achievement. And it feels like everybody knows. At home, loss is easier to hide. In early 2002, my hair started to fall out. I was embarrassed and I didn't want people to know. I thought they would think I wasn't coping. It just looked awful. My hairdresser tried to help. Colour for volume, babe. I even had blue hair at one point. Then I resorted to a bobble hat, which in spring, it did look quite quirky. But by summer, I was hot, and I was bored of hiding. So the bobble hat came off. Just let it go, Zoe. Reason 4 is that change brings uncertainty. We all can deal with change every day, but uncertainty is not easy to live with for long. For 2 years after Graham's accident, we could not figure out why he couldn't remember our names, but he could remember all the lyrics to all his favourite 80s power ballads. We just had no clue what was going on. One day, he called me up and he said, I can see the sea, but I don't know where I am, and I think I probably should be somewhere else. Now, we lived 25 miles inland, and he was meant to be picking our girls up from school. It was causing problems. Finally, 2 years in, he was diagnosed with a brain injury, and the uncertainty, it just went away. We found our courage. We made it work. If you know what is going to change, you can make a plan. It's the not knowing that it's difficult. Reason 5. Change amplifies our vulnerability. We all know that change can cause negative emotions, stress, anxiety, depression. It can even affect our physical health. When people talk to me about change, they talk about humiliation, shock, anger. As a mother, my vulnerability is my children. After Graham's accident, I turned into a lioness. If I thought anyone was going to harm my kids, I was going to eat them for breakfast. They had been through enough. It got so bad, I stopped going to parents' evenings at school. Graham used to go, and then he'd come home and pretend that he couldn't remember what they'd said. I am still that lioness, by the way. Boyfriends and bosses, if you're watching. So, 5 reasons people don't like change. But I think we need to get along better with change. And I've got one suggestion for you. It's really simple. The next time someone says to you, "Oh, people don't like change," ask them, "What would you like to stay the same?" And listen to the answer. Change and stability are part of the same dynamic, but we focus so much on what will be different that we forget to talk about what will be the same. When I ask people about what they'd like to stay the same, they all panic and go, "Payday." Oh, no, and then they change their mind. One guy said his shoe size. How random is that? I've had an iPhone since 7 days from UK launch in November 2007. That means I've carried one of these with me everywhere, every day, for 15 years. I've had 14 of these little chaps. And if I'm honest, I have no clue what's different about them. No, it's cameras, pixels, I don't know. But I love the red. Stability is a source of certainty and balance. It keeps us grounded. If we can talk about what we want to stay the same, we can open up conversations about change. We can think about progress, share new ideas, find common ground. Thinking about what stays the same can help us deal with uncertainty, help us understand our loss, and get to know our vulnerabilities. Because I think we need to get along better with change, and we need to get a move on. Thank you.